and thanks everybody for your time and interest to listening these audios. So today we have another special guest. His name is Kevin Clark. So you are a project manager for the company Black Creek Developments out of Sylvan Lake, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's correct. Yes.
That's great. So thank you for your time and presence on this series, Kevin. I'm pretty excited to see what you could bring to the table. And first of all, I would like to explore a little bit further about your actual education background. So if you can just share a little bit more about that, who is actually Kevin in this industry, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a project manager for 10 years now. I kind of grew up in the industry. My father was a, electrician, plumber, framer. He kind of did it all. So I was in the trenches at a young age, and I learned a lot about construction. As I got older, I did some framing, different things like that, and started to take a liking to it. I guess I really started getting into my stride more on the sales side of things. And as I brought sales to the table, I was trained to be a project manager, just based on keeping me out of the field and giving me something else to do while I was trying to sell. So, and in learning how to sell, I had to learn about building envelopes and orders and processes. And from there, I guess I became a project manager. So I've been doing it a long time now, and I guess I can speak to it okay. But the passive house side of things, we actually took a class in Calgary. It was one of 2 classes in Canada. We laugh a lot because we were probably the 2 dumbest guys in the class. Ron Goss, the owner, and I. We were in a room full of architects and engineers, and we felt a little out of place, but we learned enough just to be dangerous.
Yeah, all the time. Every time that I get in touch with new contractors, new trades, and whatnot, right? So every time that you take the time to speak with everybody, you can feel like I'm so green on so many ways, right? And the way how you can enhance your knowledge just to speak about certain topic more in this type of industry, right? Where it's changing so fast. Sometimes, again, right? Well, on this side as an architect, yeah, you have to kind of rely on certain principles. But at the end of the day, it's not like just the architect on their own world, but it's like the actual team relationship, right? That will kind of just bring the project moving forward and trying to kind of just enhance every side or every element of the project to be better, right? And all of a sudden, I think is more like an actual coordination, help one another, and trying to just be better in order to just move forward in a project, right? So, no, I've learned so much about the actual construction process, and the most of the time is coming from the contractor, right? So we have the principles, but we have to build it, right? So
Absolutely,
we cannot do it by ourselves, right?
Yeah, it changes and transforms, especially when you're dealing with a passive house. What looks good on paper doesn't always necessarily look good on site.
Oh yeah.
So it's very hard to join the 2 together on top of a very difficult system as Correct. It is.
Correct. So thank you for that. And now trying to just talk a little bit about the actual company, Black Creek Developments. So I know that you are up in your ways in order to kind of just little by little trying to kind of just be better on this type of energy performance type of projects. So can you tell me a little bit more about the actual companies? I don't know if you know a little bit of the background or whatever you can share with us.
Yeah, well, company's been around for about 7 or 8 years now. I've been with them for 5. Ron Goss started with Kevin Duchanek, and basically it all began just from needing offices for themselves. They started building offices, and they got into, when I started, we started doing multi-unit apartments. Yeah, three of those big projects in the last 4 years, and then we've done a few CRU buildings and stuff like that. So now I've been on with 5 years, and I bring to the table a lot of my contacts, and we managed to land the job with Garrett Scott, and we showed a lot of interest in what he was trying to do by going to courses and learning about what he was trying to do, and that helped us land the project. And so yeah, we're a small company. We're not doing huge projects every year. We maybe do one or two big projects a year, and we kind of like to keep it small and a tight knit family, and we don't have the big overhead, or it's more of a family atmosphere. So we try and keep to that size.
Oh, that's great, because I understand that it depends of what the owner of each company wants to achieve, right? We can just think about big corporation, and all of a sudden, every time that you're dealing with the project, you're still dealing with a small team, right? In order to kind of just move forward in the actual project. So it doesn't matter how big or how small the actual company is mostly like how can you relate with the different team, like components of the team, and trying to kind of just move forward as a holistic approach in certain situations, right? So no, that's
Absolutely
great. That's good. So now that you were touching a base about this passive house project here in Red Deer, so how was, I don't know if you can just mention something about how was your the actual approach between the client and the contractor. So can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, I think it was great right from the start. We sat down with Garrett, and we got a really good idea of what he was trying to achieve, and I think the important part is buying into what he wants to do. Lots of people have ideas of how to do things, and we ran into a bit of that with some of the engineering on the team, and you really have to listen to what the customer wants to do and buy into this passive house. It's nothing like we've ever seen here before in North America.
Correct.
And it's so far advanced. We have the green energy movement, and basically they swap things out. So if you got an overhead door that takes up so much space and air, if you open an overhead door, you got to make room for that cold air somewhere else. You have to so what they usually do is incorporate more insulation or just less windows somewhere else, right? Whereas passive house is a total unit. The whole building functions together as one. There is no trade-offs. You can't trade a window for an insulated wall. That's the whole. I mean, they take the curvature of the earth into account with how much daylight hits each window. And if there's a tree in front of that window, they calculate how much shadow is on that window. It's phenomenal. They're way ahead of us. It's
right.
The houses are even crazier.
So in terms of the actual approach between Garrett and you guys, basically Garrett get in touch with you guys. What was the process?
We heard rumblings through town, and fortunate enough, I play golf with Garrett, and we knew he needed to build a new Subaru dealership. There was an old building there, and he acquired the land, and we kind of got chatting a bit, and he had a few other contractors that have obviously contacted him as well. And I think we took the direct approach of that we're going to go and we're going to invest in taking the courses on our own. We'll go learn about all of this passive house stuff, and I think we sat him down and made him an offer that made sense to him. And in building this thing, I mean, it's again something that nobody's ever done. So how can you price that? It's pretty hard to get a bunch of bids from a bunch of contractors who've never done anything like this before.
Correct.
So I guess we convinced them that we would do this together. and we made it a team. We didn't make it a contractor owner situation. We made it a team effort, and we worked together throughout the project, and in bidding and pricing and buying all the trades. We worked together on everything. So it made it a lot more sense for Garrett to do it that way, I would think.
Correct. So then what you're saying is Garrett approached you with the actual passive house in mind. Like when you got in touch with him, is like he already had the idea to kind of pursue this type of certification?
Yeah, he got the idea from a Netflix show actually. And so
it's interesting.
Yeah, he started doing some research, and he had some friends who were architects, and they pointed him in the direction of Lucas out of Vancouver.
Okay.
And so Lucas came down and met with us, and they're the ones who designed the plans, and brought everything in Garrett's mind to paper. Correct. And then from there.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting because now, I interviewed Garrett 3 weeks ago, and it's pretty interesting the way how he approached to get this work on his mind, right? Because on this type of product, as it's pretty new, as you were saying, nobody's doing this pretty commonly here in Alberta, right? We can just know that on the coast and we know that everybody's doing this in Vancouver, right? They have a different threshold of weather. They have also a lot of different materials, but trying to kind of bring this here is a little bit challenging because again, right, we don't have first the experience. Second, we need to just bring some other type of products or material in order to make it work with this extreme weather. And the learning curve by all means is pretty hard to sell, right? So at some point I was thinking, I need to kind of just sell the principle to new customers, right? To new clients. But I think that is going to be pretty hard if the actual client doesn't have the set of mind. I can remember that Garrett told me, I was convinced that I wanted to do this. And even though the project took around 2 years, and even though the actual construction process took another chunk of time, at some point you have to kind of see that he was pretty convinced about what he wants to achieve. And again, through the whole team, between the designer, between the contractor, and the proper set of mind of the client, everything moved forward, right? So now that you're saying that you got this first approach from Garrett and you embrace his vision, is when it start your need to get the proper education. So you're saying that you took a team and you went to Calgary and took the course. So how many persons of your company took the course? Or
it just ended up being 2 of us. Yeah. I was going to be the lead project manager no matter what. So I was in on it. Unfortunately, we didn't have our site supervisor with us at the time. Blair Pirate, he worked with Camden for a long time, I believe 30 years. So we went after somebody who we knew had a ton of experience in the building field, just specifically for this project. Mm-hmm. And we knew we would have to have a great site guy just to be able to get this done. That was key for us. So Ron and I took the course. We learned a lot. I would say we learned way more than we thought we would, Mm-hmm. It's amazing what goes into it. And thank goodness we didn't have to get into the math side of things of it, but the building envelope and learning what passive house is all about, and focusing on what we're good at, handling the project and making sure the special needs that need to be paid attention to. There's the extreme detail. I mean, we used over 8 kilometers of tape on this building.
Right.
Taping every little hole, every little pinhole to try to get the proper air pressurization in that building. So,
not that you are touching on that point. So one of my next question was what was the most challenging procedure or or situation that you faced at that point in time. So what you can just mention out of that?
I would say it started right off the bat. So the whole envelope has a thermal barrier. So the walls are 26 inches thick, filled with insulation. We have 4 to 5 feet of insulation in the roof of Subaru. And then underneath we have 12 inches of SM insulation. Mm-hmm. So it's basically a floating concrete slab on this insulation. Mm-hmm. And in order to, because of our ground, the Subaru site needed piles. So we had to pound in piles, and then we had to figure out how to encompass the pile caps in insulation and create those void forms for our beams. And that got intense. And so there was a lot of meetings around that. It was a lot of brain power from all the trades. We were doing countless hours of trying to figure out these designs and how to put them together. There was a lot of moving parts. And then when you use 12 inches of SN insulation underneath the slab and you're trying to get it level over 15,000 square feet, right. I mean, we were using lasers, and I mean, it was down to broom strokes basically of trying to get the insulation to line up and stay true. So there was a ton. Again, on that car bays, they needed to be exhausted so the mechanics could be able to work on them. So you've got all this fresh air coming into the building, but it's circulating with the carbon monoxide from the vehicles. So we had to figure out a system in order to exhaust the vehicles and still be able to keep the passive house with its air changes per hour. So there was a lot of engineering and math crunching going on throughout the whole project. It was a lot of 5 steps forwards and 4 steps back, because we thought we had something licked, and then no, we got to go back and change it. So it was a neat process.
Correct. And in terms, now that you're talking about leakage situation, right? So how the blow testing went? So did you kind of just hire a sub-trade in order to do that, or do you have your own pressure test or whatever? So what was the process there?
Yeah, we reached out to Tomas. Thank goodness we took the course, because we ended up meeting a lot of passive house people at this course that had connections in the industry. So Tomas, the teacher, he just finished doing a passive house in Okotoks. So he had a blower door test guy there. So I got a hold of him, and he gave me his number. Fortunate enough, he came down and pressurized the building for us, and that was such a cool process. I've never seen anything like that done before. We're walking around 15,000 square feet with a little tiny smoke pen. I have videos of us doing it, and you're basically checking every little window, crack, nook to find these. And you wouldn't believe the draft that would come into the building with pressurization. So.
Correct. So that's good. So basically you were able to kind of find a local subtrade in order to do that, right? So that's good. Yes. So, and that was my next question about how you was able to detect any leakage. So you went all over the place with this smoke pencil, trying to kind of just look for the draft, and basically that was the actual solution type of thing.
Yeah. So we would find the drafts and we would tape them. It really wasn't hard. It was like a fan was blowing in your face. So you could walk into different areas and you could feel it right away. Mm-hmm, and sometimes they'd be whistling. It'd be such a heavy pressurization. So it was that was the coolest. That was one of the most memorable part of the builds is being inside there while we were doing.
Correct. And in terms of the actual suit trade, like, did you have like a specific, I think, in this passive house, seminars, they were talking about this leakage or airtight champion type of thing. Like it's basically one person that is dedicated to kind of just go through everywhere and try to kind of find out where the actual leakage. So you have that per se, or basically is everyone has the ownership to just don't make it leak. So
yeah, well, the guy was on site with us, and he had his little monitor, so he could see how much leakage we had in the building. And although, I mean, over 15,000 square feet, he said it was equal to about an 18-inch by 18-inch square. And we had to find that much in little holes. So, yeah, we had all hands on deck. The boss was there, our site super, a couple of our laborers, myself. We were just going around with tape and just taping, in holes and whatever we could tape. And as you tape for an hour probably, and then go back to the machine and look at the rating, and it would drop. It would drop significantly, even after us doing it for just an hour. But it took most of a day to do what we needed to do to get to the number we were at. And he said it was the lowest he's ever seen on a building. So
that is what I saw on some of the articles that I've seen, like through the web, right? Saying that we not only can achieve the 0.6 ACH, but even lower, right? So that was pretty neat, I believe, right? So
he said it was huge. I had no idea. He was excited when he saw our numbers. Correct. So it made me excited because he was happy, but I had no idea that it was as good as it was. So it was neat to see for sure.
So my next question is related to how many tests you did. So I understand that you have to do the pressurize that and the under pressure type of thing. So at some point it's like, well, one at the beginning, another one at the end type of thing. But you have to done like so many more, or how that worked?
Yeah, so we did one at the start, and that was there was no drywall in the building or anything like that. So, and the outside of the building wasn't complete either. So we had to make sure that our penetrations and everything from inside and outside of the building were sealed. And then we put our drywall on, and we tried not to penetrate that barrier at all. Everything drywall screws, they had to hit the studs. If they didn't hit the studs, you'd mud them and tape them right away. Try to fill those holes. We couldn't have any leakage in the building, obviously. So yeah, after we got basically the complete job drywalled and sealed up again, it actually made it tighter again because it held in more air, obviously, with the drywall and mud and tape.
How do you like it so far? Thank you for being with us. If you want to know about the following part, just keep in touch and follow us for the next part of this episode. And please don't forget to leave me a review on whichever platform that you're using to listen in this podcast. Either good or bad. Remember, Mexican have thicker skin. You won't hurt my feelings, that's for sure. And better yet, if it has some good criticism, so I can learn from it and improve it, that will be even greater. I understand this hasn't been perfect, but it can be better every time. I recognize your time is valuable. I would like you to enjoy this moment with me as well. Also, if you like what you get from this audio, I will recommend you to be the first to share this info with your friends, so maybe they can get something valuable from it as well. Thanks for listening, and let's meet again soon.